In order to use the Blob Brush to recreate this sketch, first I want to change my Blob Brush settings to make sure they work well for me. So in order to change a setting for any tool, we know we have to double click on it, and then a dialog box pops up. The fidelity controls how many anchor points are put down, so I'm going to keep it kind of in the middle range. If it doesn't work well for me, I'll go back and change it, and I can change the smoothness of this, as well as the diameter of my brush and the angle it's in. I'm going to keep the brush fairly small, not a perfect round circle, but about that much. If you're using your Wacom tablets, you can change this to deal with your pressure or your stylus wheel, but right now I'm using a mouse, so I'm just going to press OK. Now, in order to do this well, I like to work section by section and not get overwhelmed by everything. So I'm going to swap it so that I'm working in black, and I'm going to zoom in. And let me start with the eyes. Start with the small shape. Now my brush is way too big for that small shape, so I'm going to use my left bracket. If you notice, the left bracket makes it smaller, and then the right bracket will make your brush bigger. And I'm just going to kind of make that shape. You notice the figure is a rough sketch, so it's not meant to be perfect. It's okay if it's a bit sloppy. And I'm going to go maybe to the nose and kind of start building from there. And I'll draw his eyes. And it's okay if sections don't match perfectly, because we're going to go back and clean this up with the eraser tool. And I'll just start with all the main parts of his face and work from there. Now you see I've created quite a bit of the character, and you'll notice that not all my lines are exactly the same width, which is good because it looks like a real sketch, right? Sketches aren't perfect, especially done with a brush. You're going to have different varying widths. So using the Blob Brush, I'm going to make the scarf. That's the last piece I'm kind of missing. You'll notice that my lines don't match up exactly. I kind of overlap things as I saw fit. I'll start off by following this sketch here as best I can. I'll make my brush a bit bigger and kind of go over where these lines, the sketch are. Now, I also have some little lines going off this way. Go, and I can kind of scribble some texture if I really want to over here. Now, obviously I didn't do this very neatly. The beauty of the Blob Brush is that it works in relation to the eraser tool, and I can also change the setting of my eraser tool if I want to change the roundness, the size, and all of that, angle. Now, I like to use my eraser tool fairly small, kind of just go over the pieces where I went a little overboard, or I want to change the width a bit. If you notice, because the Blob Brush creates a filled in line, the eraser actually just cleans up those lines and allows you to erase the entire fill as long as the eraser overlaps. So I like to just make lines pointed so it looks more like a pen did this as opposed to a perfect digital brush, and go back and forth. Now the thing about this is time consuming. It takes a while to kind of go into each corner and clean up your work. So make sure that you work section by section. It makes you feel more accomplished as you work, and it allows you to see your work. I like to work, zoom out, work, zoom out. Now once I am happy with my sketch, I like to make a new layer and name this color, right? I want to create a color scheme. Now I can paint this. I'm going to make my figure this blue. I'm going to take my Blob Brush, and I'm going to make my brush a little bit larger. And because I'm working on a new layer, make sure I select it. I might even want to lock this artwork so I don't accidentally erase the work I've done. And I'm just going to go ham and kind of paint as best I can to the edges of my figure. Now I decided to change my color into more like a minty green. So I'm going to drag this color layer underneath the line work, and you'll notice now it doesn't look as sloppy. I'm still going to lock this line work, and I can continue to paint his face, the rest of his figure. And I'm going to eventually fill this in until I have an entire colored image. And I even added some background. If you finish early, add some nice line work in the background so it looks like this character is falling.